Hello to my internet friends. It's your pal Milo, and today we're checking out Black Heaven, a necromantic dating sim by Occult Triangle Lab. This is the demo for Black Heaven, a necromantic dating sim. Some elements may be changed or revised for the final game. This game is meant for an 18+ audience. Uh-oh folks, if you're under the age of 18, click off this video now. 3 days. It's been 3 days since you arrived at the library of Gizaran, and you can already feel your body dying, 1 inch at a time. Your fingertips have become dull and black, and you can't seem to get enough air into your lungs. Across your skin, isolated black splotches have merged together, becoming a living tapestry of cancer. As you feverishly rifle through the shelves, searching the ancient spines for books on diseases, your mind begins to slip in and out of consciousness. Minutes and hours pass in a blur, until finally, you collapse against the shelves and roll onto your back. You look up at the cavernous roof of the library, hung with stalactites. Thousands of tiny fireflies float between the spikes of rock, casting dim light on the shelves below. This library used to be one of the ancient wonders of the subterranean land, known as the Sunless Kingdoms, but now, it's just a pile of moldy paper. You've heard that they tried to seal the entrances to the underground against the sick when the plague began. It had given artificers enough time to craft the first filter masks, but it wasn't enough. The plague still made it down here. Now the only ones left alive are people like you, resistant to the disease, though not immune. Your mask has kept your body from breathing in more of the disease, but it can only help so much. Even worse than the cancerous plague spreading through your body, however, are the memories. There was a time when you were just beginning your tutelage as a scholar of immortality at the Itzon Academy. Everything was so bright, so promising. When you open your eyes again, you're sitting at a low table in a sunlit room. Scrolls hang from the walls, each one featuring illustrations from ancient manuscripts on immortality. A black pot of tea is sitting on the table, and across from you sits Rue. She's dressed the way you remember her, down to the silver buttons on her collar, the uniform for instructors of the Itzon Academy. Rue shuffles some papers around, her gaze refusing to meet yours. Slowly, the memory falls into place. This is the first time you met Rue after your entrance exam. This was your first day as an initiate at Itzon, the day you would meet your mentor and speak about your course of study. You had been so nervous to meet your new mentor. You had expected someone wise, older, and confident. Rue was none of those things. Uzo? Rue's voice jerks you out of your thoughts. How are you finding the academy? It's big. It's kinda confusing to find my way around, but I'm getting the hang of it. I see. Rue shifts in her seat. She shuffles around your documents, as if buying time before saying something else. You remember what you thought, all those years ago. She's too young to be an instructor here, much less your mentor. Still, they told you she would be the one tutoring you for your first year. What subject are you most interested in studying? You don't remember what you told her back then. What did you want to study? Physical augmentation, senescence and regeneration, artificial vessels. The study of artificial vessels deals with the art of creating golems from wood, metal, or other materials, and attaching one's soul to them. Those who practice this art treat their golem bodies like works of art, and strive for an existence beyond the flesh. This is what I studied at Itzon. When you were a student, you'd heard that one of the newest forms of physiomancy decided to phase out the flesh entirely. Instead, bone and blood were gradually replaced with metal, stone, or lacquered wood. No one had ever achieved a wholly artificial body, but some had replaced everything but their organs, and organs could be replaced. The first time you saw a golem person, they were breathtaking. Their sleek form, their perfectly symmetrical design, their carefully crafted face. They didn't get cold, or sick, or hungry, and they moved like a dancer. Looking at your own body, you were almost sickened by how crude it seemed. In a few decades, your skin would dry out, and your bones would weaken. You'd end up like your great-grandparents, trapped in a rotting corpse. A golem, however, that seemed designed for eternity. You realize you've been lost in thought for a few seconds, and that Rue has been looking at you the whole time. Artificial vessels. Well, we have an excellent curricula for that. A servant arrives to pour both of you tea, and you're left in silence as they fill your cups. You sip your tea slowly, remembering how you wanted to make it last back then. Anything was better than continuing this extremely awkward conversation. When you set down your cup, you see Rue drop her eyes from you. She was clearly watching you sip your tea. Instead of speaking, she begins fiddling with a small piece of paper. You look out the window at the beautiful campus and reflect on your time there. You were nervous when you first stepped foot in Itzon. You weren't from a wealthy or famous family, and this was supposed to be an elite academy. From the first time you met your classmates, you felt awkward and out of place. People looked at you differently, and you hoped you could live up to expectations. But when you look back on your memories of Itzon, you remember the pleasant things most clearly. You hear a soft ripping sound and look over at Rue, who has carefully ripped a piece of paper along a straight line. She freezes when she sees you looking at her and begins to speak rapidly. One of the interesting things I discovered when studying here is the paper lotus problem. Have you heard of it? No, what is it? The idea is that when you fold a paper lotus, you'll never perfectly align the folds, and each flaw will have a ripple effect on the next fold. In the end, one flaw will shape the outcome of the entire lotus. If you know how, you can see, or at least recognize a person by the flaws in their lotuses. Because those flaws reflect their individual soul, as expressed through their physical form. She quickly folds the lotus, smoothing the creases and turning the paper as you watch. Finally, a pristine paper flower rests on the table. You inspect the flower from different angles, trying to spot some kind of asymmetry. It looks perfect, but it's not. If you magnified your vision, you'd see the tiny imperfections. The more you magnified it, the bigger those flaws would seem. Well, can anyone fold a perfect lotus? That's the important question. For anyone to obtain perfection in any form, even in something as small as a paper lotus, they would need to align their body, mind, and soul with the principle of perfection. In that moment, they would become perfect, at least in a sense. Maybe you could attain that for a moment, but eventually you'd need to return to your normal flawed state, like entropy. Slowly, old concepts rise from your memory. The principle of perfection, entropy, metaphysical symmetry. You haven't thought about all those things in years. At the time, though, you didn't know what Rue was talking about. Instead, you just asked for a piece of paper. Can I have a piece of that paper? Oh, sure. She hands you a piece, and you gaze at the designs dyed into it. It's cloth-like paper, the kind that gets a little stiff when you fold it. You start to fold it in half, but stop. You hadn't learned how to fold a lotus yet. Originally, you tried something different. You take a small, sharp knife out of your pocket and start to cut small lines into the paper. As you cut, you keep talking. I think there can be beauty in our flaws. She frowns. There's nothing beautiful about flaws by nature. If they were beautiful, they wouldn't be flaws. I don't think that's right. They told instructors at my old academy that a perfect teacher is authoritative and professional. Those types of teachers always treat you like a student. If you came in here acting that way, I probably would have been intimidated. But instead, we're just sitting here talking like two normal people. And that makes me feel a lot more comfortable with you being my mentor. You look up and smile embarrassedly at Rue, who opens her mouth to speak. Instead, she breathes out a sigh of relief and smiles. I'm glad to hear that. I've never taken on students before, and this is not my usual, I'm not usually comfortable with teaching new people. Rue watches you slice the cuts into the paper. After a minute, she speaks again. If you're trying to cut along the folds to circumvent the problem with inexact creases, it doesn't work. You smile and don't say anything, remembering how the patterns of cuts went. When you finish, you unfold the paper and reveal an intricate little snowflake. Rue's eyebrows rise, and she holds out her hand. You give her the snowflake and watch her face light up with a smile. I never thought of cutting it like this. It's the same sort of ripple effect. One little cut affects the whole design, right? She looks up at you and nods. Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. Can I keep it? Sure. Rue looks down at her paper lotus and picks it up with her fingertips. You can have this. You take the lotus in your palm and cradle it, looking at it from all angles again. No matter how hard you look, you can't see the flaws in it. It's so small, so delicate in your hand. It will only take a tiny amount of force to crush it. but that makes you marvel at it even more. When you look up from the lotus, you find Rue looking back at you. She hurriedly looks down, embarrassed. After speaking with Rue, you had your first session of martial arts, which was required for initiates. You'd never done much physical exercise as a scholar, so you were a bit nervous. Sitting on the hardwood floor in your new workout uniform, you notice one girl's gaze never wavers from the instructor. Her back is straight as a post, and her face is dead serious. When the instructor calls for a volunteer, the girl's arm shoots up, her jaw set, and her eyes steely. The instructor points at her and motions for her to approach.
The human body contains hidden depths and subtle dimensions of power. For example, when I ask Initiate Ito here to attack me.
He motions for the girl to advance, and she rushes at him with surprising ferocity. She throws a punch, but in the blink of an eye her feet leave the floor, and her whole body is launched over the instructor's shoulder as he grips her arm and throws her. She lands hard, but she manages to get her legs under her and leap to her feet, apparently unfazed. The instructor nods to her, and the girl sits back down. When it comes time to pair up for the first exercises, you swallow hard when the instructor pairs you with that same girl. The first exercise is meant to loosen the wrists, and starts with both partners clasping each other's forearms, one partner with their palms up, the other with their palms down. You watch Ito tighten the bandages on her arms and lay out her hands palm up. You gingerly grip her arms, and her fingers wrap around yours, gentle but firm. You notice the skin above her bandages is covered in green, black, and blue splotches, deep tissue bruises. When you raise your eyes to hers, she has that same dead serious look you saw before.
Whoever has their hands on the bottom rotates their wrist.
She lets go of your arm, moves her hand to the inside, then grips the top of your arm, forcing you to flip your arms over. And then, you do the same. You mimic her movements, twisting your wrist, moving it to the inside of her arm, and wrapping your fingers around her arm. You watch your hands make the motion again, her fingers spreading out and closing like the wings of a bird. Don't look at your hands. Look at me. Startled, you raise your eyes to hers again. She has deep blue eyes, and you can tell all of her focus is on you. When you get more experienced, your hands will do this automatically. It becomes an instinct. You won't hesitate, you'll just do it naturally. You gaze into her eyes, feeling your fingertips moving against her skin. You can feel your palms getting sweaty, but Ito doesn't seem to care. How long have you been a student here?
2 years.
She says the words gravely, as if she were telling you how many years she has left to live. Wow, so what's your focus of study?
Physical augmentation.
Her eyes never leave yours, and it's starting to get to you. You've gone your whole life trying to avert your gaze from people's eyes out of respect or discomfort, but here, it seems like Ito doesn't even care that she's staring at you. What's that like? She spends an uncomfortable amount of time silent, her hands still rotating around your arms. It's strangely hypnotic.
Have you ever treaded water?
Yeah, I've treaded water.
Here they have you tread water with a heavy brick in your arms, so you can only kick with your feet. It forces you to just keep your head above water. When you get good at that, they give you another brick. With 2 bricks, the only thought in your head is trying not to drown. Your head spends most of the time below the water instead of above it. All you can do is break water, take a quick gulp of air, then go back down. That's what augmentation training is like. You give a nervous laugh, but Ito doesn't smile. It seems like she's inspecting your soul, 1 inch at a time. How did you get all those bruises? Sparring.
You must be doing a lot of sparring.
4 sessions per day.
You pick up on a hint of pride in the way she says it, as if that number is remarkably high. I'd hate to see your partner.
They're over there, the one with the red sash.
You turn your face away from Ito and spot a girl with a red sash practicing with another student, using only her left arm. Her right arm is bandaged and splinted.
She's much more experienced than me, but her technique is sloppy. Her bones will reset in a day or 2. I haven't learned how to do that yet.
Do the bruises hurt? Shouldn't you give them time to heal?
She gives a sharp exhale through her nose and tightly grips your arms. You can feel her iron grip begin to squeeze your bones. She narrows her eyes and smiles. Pain is part of learning anything. It reminds you of what you still haven't mastered. That's enough warming up. Time for the next exercise. Ito lets go of your wrists. Your arms fall back to your sides, and you're left with the ghostly feeling of her palms and the sweat cooling on your skin. After the martial arts session, you headed to the bathing chambers to wash off the sweat and change back to your school's uniform. Your next session was your first course in anatomy. As you walk into the room, the instructor hands you an apron, a pair of cloth gloves, and a porcelain mask to secure around your mouth. You put all of them on and stand against the wall with the other students, whose eyes are fixed on 12 tables set in rows. Each one has the corpse of a deer on it. The stench of rotting meat manages to penetrate your mask, making you gag a little. After a few minutes, the instructor addresses all of you.
The human body is a wondrous and complicated thing, more complex than any clock and more elegant than any work of art. Each organ has its place in the body.
When he's finished with his lecture, he begins pairing pupils up and assigning them a table. You're paired with a freckled girl with red curly hair and long pale fingers. She's pulled back her long hair in a loose ponytail, but loose strands seem to keep getting in her way. As the instructor begins going over the tools at your table and the procedure to remove the deer's organs, the girl picks up a small, short knife. You watch in amazement as she makes one clean cut down the center of the corpse's stomach, just deep enough to slice through the hide. The deer's muscles are laid bare, and the girl begins making lines of short, precise cuts where the different muscle groups connect. You lean over to whisper to her, hoping the instructor doesn't notice. "What are you doing? We're supposed to wait until he..." "That's boring. I already know all this stuff. Here, hold this." She hands you the knife, stained with congealed blood and a yellowish fluid. She then picks up a stack of wooden trays and spreads them across the open table. "I'm gonna remove the heart. I want to see the little chambers and flaps."
Initiate Elise, is there a problem with your specimen?
No, we're good. It's a good deer."
Then I would appreciate it if you refrain from speaking while I'm speaking.
"Oh yeah, sure. Sorry." As the instructor goes on, you watch the girl fidget impatiently with the tools laid out in front of her. Finally, the lecture is over, and you're free to start examining your deer. The red-headed girl immediately grabs a different knife and picks up where she left off. "You look like you're a little sick. This your first course in anatomy here?" "Yeah, I've never done anything like this before." The girl slides her hand between the organs and pulls out a pile of intestines, which she hands to you. You immediately drop them on one of the trays. "Totally green, huh? Thought so. Once you get over the blood and stuff, it's easy. I've heard that once we're fifth-year students, we get to start working on our own bodies. I've always wanted to be a little taller." Isn't messing with your own body kind of dangerous?" You watch the girl deftly separate the organs from one another and sever the arteries connected to the heart, one at a time. "Only if you don't know what you're doing." "What was your name again?" "Oh, right, sorry." She sets the heart on a tray and swings her head to get all of her hair behind her shoulder again, then reaches out with her gore-covered glove. "You can call me Lise. What's your name?" "I'm Uzo." "Nice to meet ya. I'm studying artificial vessels for the soul here." Guessing you know a lot about surgery and stuff, huh?" "Yep, I spent a lot of time studying anatomy before I got here. I heard the students here were really serious, but it seems like most of them don't like to get their hands dirty." She turns to you, her green eyes seeming to focus on you for the first time. "What about you? You care about getting your hands dirty?" "It doesn't bother me." Lise smiles at you with bright white teeth. She lifts the hem of her school jacket, exposing her bare, freckled hip. A row of stitches run across the skin, just above her kidney. "Me neither." She starts to slice open the deer heart, her knife following the contours of the muscles. "You want to just put your hand right here?" She guides your hand, so it's gripping half of the heart. You hold it steady as she works, and soon the entire organ is laid out like a peeled orange. Lise starts pointing out the different structures of the heart, the ventricles, the chambers, the channels for the blood. "Deer hearts are almost identical to human hearts, but they're bigger. Isn't that crazy? Something with 4 legs, a bunch of fur, same heart." "Yeah, it's pretty crazy." "You know, pig hearts are even more similar to ours. You can even use them for transplants." She pats your apron, just above your heart. After 10 minutes, Lise finishes emptying the chest cavity of the deer. You look around at the rest of the students and find that some of them have barely progressed beyond separating the muscles with their knives. "I wish they would give us something interesting like a cow. Deer is so simple. Cows have like 4 stomachs and bezoars." You can't help but look at the gory tableau spread across your table and admire Lisa's skill, not to mention exuberance. Despite some pools of bloods and fluids, everything is laid out neatly on the trays, as if you were baking a morbid cake. Watching her do all this with genuine excitement and nonchalance makes you feel like this wasn't such a big deal. Maybe all that dread and disgust was all in your head. When you open your eyes, the smell of blood and meat still lingers in your nostrils. Overhead,
You can see the fireflies floating between the stalactites of the library of Gizaran. You can feel the hard stone floor beneath your back. You hear something wet move and feel something sting in your chest. The smell of blood is stronger.
Ah, you're awake. Unfortunate timing for both of us.
Something looms over you. A person. They're wearing a smooth, shiny metal helmet that covers their whole head. It looks like it's been molded to fit their skull and has no eye holes. A complete set of human teeth has been built into the jaw of the helmet, giving it a terrifying grin. You raise your head from the ground and look down at your chest. Your jacket and shirt have been sliced down the middle, and you can see the skin on your chest has been peeled and pinned back with silver pins, like a butterfly on a board.
Just some friendly advice here. Try not to scream. I was in the process of removing your lungs, and screaming is going to be, well, it's not going to be good for you.
Who? What? You start trying to push yourself up on your elbows, but the figure pushes you gently back down.
I thought I checked your pulse, but it looks like I was too hasty.
In the haze of panic and horror, a thought occurs to you. If this man is operating on your chest, he would have seen your heart pumping, wouldn't he? My heart. You should have seen I was alive.
Oh, this?
The man picks up a small wooden box and lifts a blood-smeared heart out of it. You let your head fall back down to the floor. This guy knew you were alive. He just didn't care. Just kill me already. Harvest my organs, whatever you want. I deserve it.
Well, you're taking this better than I could have hoped. But I feel compelled to ask, why do you want to die?
I don't want to talk about it.
Well, you've got about 2 minutes left before your body realizes it should be dead. I think that's long enough for a story.
You look at his eyeless helmet blankly. The memories of your time at the academy flit through your head. Rue, Izagi, Elise. There's no doubt in your mind that they're dead by now. Everyone you know is gone, killed by the plague, and it's all your fault. I was the one who started the plague. Me and my tutor, Rue. Everyone's dying because of us.
Now, that's a story I'd like to hear.
This is the end of the demo. If you enjoyed it, follow Black Heaven on itch.io and follow us on Twitter at @TriangleLab for more updates on the full game. Wow, okay. That was awesome. It's really creepy already. It's a lot of character development, so there was not a lot of horror, but the opening and the outro were both really, really creepy. I love all three of the characters. No Eyes, obviously, best character of 2020. I mean, just look at him. Incredible. I love this game. I think you guys definitely have to follow Triangle Lab. They're so cool. And I cannot wait to see more of this game because this demo has me hooked. I didn't even feel the need to commentate on it while I was doing it, so definitely check it out, guys. That said, hope you're safe, hope you're not catching any plagues, hope you're all doing well, happy, doing the best you can do, live your life, follow your dreams, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is.